So you've been sharing your concerns about the future of the church.
Yeah.
And how younger generations are moving away from the faith.
Right.
A really tough subject. But that's exactly what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of research and surveys, even thoughts from priests and young Catholics themselves.
Wow.
All to try and figure out what's going on.
Okay.
It's definitely a trend that's got a lot of people worried.
It really does.
So I guess we got to start with the why.
Yeah, the why.
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
One article I read actually shared a story about a young woman named Irene.
Okay.
And she feels kind of stuck between her faith and the church's stance on things like abortion and homosexuality.
Okay. Yeah.
I think what really gets me about Irene's story is that it kind of reflects what a lot of young people are feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
They're wrestling with these really complex issues, but they feel like the church just isn't giving them the space or guidance for an open conversation.
Yeah. It's like they're looking for guidance from a shepherd, but all they're getting is a lecture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that feeling of disconnect was actually a big thing in the 2018 Synod on Young People.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just one or two hot-button topics.
Yeah.
They talked about things like the sex abuse scandals, economic scandals within the church, homilies that just don't connect, just a lack of engagement from parishes and clergy.
That's a lot.
It really is. It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe one issue on its own wouldn't push someone away, but all these concerns together can create a sense of disillusionment.
Absolutely. And I think when we dig deeper into the specific points of tension, you start to see some patterns.
Okay.
Like, take the role of women in the church.
Okay.
Brenda Noriega, she advises the Vatican.
Wow.
And she's been pushing for women to be ordained as deacons.
Oh, that's interesting.
For those who might not know, a deacon is ordained for ministry and service in the church. Okay.
And she even points to scriptures that show women leading early Christian communities.
That's something I never really thought about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just so used to seeing only men at the altar.
Right.
It makes you wonder how things would be different if women had more visible roles in the liturgy.
It really does. And that desire for inclusion goes beyond just that.
Okay.
Especially when you look at social issues.
Yeah.
Like a Pew survey in 2020 found that over half of U.S. Catholics, including young adults, think abortion should be legal in all or most cases.
Which really clashes with what the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're completely against it.
Yeah.
And it's not just abortion either.
Okay.
When you look at views on homosexuality and same-sex marriage, the gap gets even wider.
Really?
85% of young Catholics believe that homosexuality should be accepted.
By society.
Yeah, by society.
But the USCCB still calls same-sex marriage an intrinsic evil.
It's tough to see how those two viewpoints can find common ground.
Yeah, it really is. And then there's Pope Francis. He tends to be more welcoming and compassionate on these issues.
Yeah.
I mean, he even compared transgender people to the lepers Jesus met, highlighting the need for understanding and accompaniment.
That's true. And, his famous "Who am I to judge?" about gay priests.
Right.
That really shifted the tone for many people.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's trying to build bridges while the USCCB is building walls.
It's a powerful image. And, this disconnect also shows up in other parts of young people's lives.
Like what?
We're seeing fewer Catholic marriages and infant baptisms. More couples are choosing to live together or get married outside the church.
So even in the sacraments and the traditions, there's a growing distance.
There is. And it all leads to a big question.
What's that?
Are we in a great apostasy?
Whoa, that's a heavy term.
It is.
And for good reason. We looked at this article from Christianity Post, and it defines apostasy as turning away from the Christian faith on purpose.
Right.
They even mentioned verses like Revelation 3.1516, where Jesus criticizes the lukewarm church in Laodicea, and Matthew 24.9-12, which talks about people abandoning the faith as the end times get closer.
It's serious stuff.
It makes you think, if young people are leaving because they feel alienated or unheard, does that really mean they're apostates? Are they turning away from God completely, or just from a version of the church that doesn't resonate with them anymore?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, the church has gone through tough times before.
Yeah, it has.
Our times of decline.
Exactly. And in the middle of all these challenges, there are glimmers of hope.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the most unexpected places.
Like where?
Well, one article pointed out that there's a surprising revival of interest in traditional Catholic worship among young people.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. The author, Dwight Longnecker, he describes this amazing scene at a solemn Latin Mass.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, the solemn Latin Mass uses Latin and follows older liturgical traditions.
Got it.
So anyway, he says the church was packed.
Wow.
Even with visiting couples who were just captivated by the beauty and reverence of it all.
It seems counterintuitive.
It really does.
In a world obsessed with the new and trendy.
Right.
Why are young people drawn to something so old?
Well, Longnecker believes it speaks to a deeper need for authenticity.
Authenticity, okay.
They're constantly bombarded with artificiality, social media, fake news, pressure to conform to trends that come and go.
That's true.
So in all that noise, the traditional Mass offers something real, something grounded in centuries of history and unchanging truth.
I see.
It's like a refuge from the shallowness of the modern world.
Yeah. It's a countercultural statement.
Yeah.
They're rejecting the fleeting and embracing the eternal.
And this ties into another point Longnecker makes.
Okay, what's that?
The decline of traditional Christian culture. He sees traditional worship as a way to preserve the beauty and truth that are under attack.
Under attack.
Yeah, by today's ideologies.
It's a strong argument.
It is.
These young people are attracted to the strength and stability of tradition, especially in a world that feels so chaotic and uncertain.
Yeah. And what I find interesting is that Longnecker's frustrated with people within the church who seem to dismiss or even resist this trend.
Oh, really?
He thinks they're stuck in old ways.
Yeah.
And missing how tradition can bring back a generation searching for meaning and purpose.
That's a valid point. Are we ignoring a chance to connect with young people? Overlooking the very things they're looking for?
Which takes us to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
Where's the hope in all this?
Right.
If the church is struggling to keep young people engaged, how do we move forward? How do we bridge the gap?
Well, that's where Everett Fritz's article has something interesting to say. He makes this comparison to the Chicago Cubs and their curse of the Billy Goat.
I remember that.
You know, the one that kept them from winning a World Series for years.
For decades.
Yeah.
Right?
So Fritz compares the church's situation right now to the Cubs' long losing streak.
Okay.
They tried everything to break the curse, but nothing worked until they were willing to think differently, embrace new solutions.
So he's saying we need to stop making excuses about why young people are leaving.
Right.
And look for creative, maybe even radical ways to address the root causes of their disillusionment.
Exactly. And one of his key insights is that we need to meet young people's basic needs within the church.
Okay, so like what?
Oh, he uses Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, yeah, I remember that from psychology.
You know, the pyramid of needs. Yeah. Starting with basic stuff like food and shelter, then safety, belonging, esteem, and eventually self-actualization.
Right. The idea that you can't reach your full potential unless those basic needs are met.
Exactly. And Fritz says this applies to spiritual growth, too.
Oh, that's interesting.
If young people don't feel safe, welcomed, and valued in the church, they're unlikely to make a real commitment to their faith.
That makes a lot of sense.
And he's not the only one thinking this way.
Okay.
He even quotes Pope Francis from Christus Vivit.
Really?
Yeah, where the Pope admits that traditional youth ministry just isn't working anymore.
Wow. So he's saying we need to completely rethink how we do youth ministry.
Exactly. And this leads to a really important distinction
what's it?
That Fritz makes between just having small groups and actual discipleship.
That's the difference?
He says just gathering young people for social things or even Bible studies isn't enough.
Okay.
We need to go deeper, build authentic relationships, offer guidance and mentorship that helps them grow in their faith.
Yeah.
He describes discipleship as an apprenticeship in Christian living where young people learn by example by being with mentors who are committed to living their faith in a real way.
So it's not just about telling them what to believe, but showing them how to live it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He contrasts this with what he calls the Sermon on the Mount approach,
Okay.
where we focus on giving information and moral lessons, but don't really equip young people to actually apply those teachings.
It's like giving them a map without teaching them how to use it.
That's a great way to put it. And this brings us to some practical takeaways.
Okay.
Some steps we can take to tackle this challenge and start turning things around. It's all about shifting our focus.
Yeah.
Changing how we see things. Fritz asks us to imagine this.
Okay.
What if we put all our efforts in ministry into just one person's spiritual growth?
It makes you think about the individual.
Yeah.
Makes you realize every soul is precious. And everyone's faith journey is different.
And that's where he talks about this theory of one.
Okay.
To reach many, we got to focus on one.
I think I get it. It's about quality, not quantity.
Yes.
Building relationships that really mean something.
Exactly. Relationships that can actually change lives.
And that's what Jesus did, right?
Yeah.
He didn't try to convert everyone at once.
Right? He chose 12 disciples.
Yeah.
And he was even closer to Peter, James, and John.
So it's not about these big programs or events.
No.
It's about investing in people.
Yes.
Walking with them on their faith journey.
That's it. And Fritz actually did this himself.
Oh, right.
He changed his whole youth ministry, moved away from the big events, and focused on small group discipleship.
So did it work?
The results were amazing. His youth ministry doubled in size.
Wow.
And the kids who were in those small groups stayed active in their faith, even as young adults.
So it shows how powerful authentic discipleship can be.
Absolutely. Creating spaces where young people feel seen and heard and supported in their faith.
That's so encouraging. So we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
You saw those stats about young people leaving the church.
Yeah.
We looked at those tough issues causing tension and division. We even talked about a great apostasy.
Yeah.
But we've also found some hope.
We have. We've seen how tradition can bring renewal.
Yeah.
And we talked about real solutions like authentic discipleship and meeting young people's needs within the church.
You know, something from that article about Irene stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
She mentioned Folkshaus.
The Fellowship of Catholic University Students.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a great job connecting with young people on college campuses.
Exactly. And they're doing it through what some might call traditional means.
Like what?
Bible studies.
Okay.
Rosary groups. A focus on personal prayer.
So it challenges the idea that young people only want a more progressive church.
It really does. Makes you wonder, do young people actually want tradition more than we think?
Maybe it's not about tradition versus modern, but about presenting the timeless truths of our faith in a way that connects with young people today.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
We need to be true to our tradition, but also find creative ways to make it relevant for the next generation.
And that means listening to young people.
Yeah.
Understanding their struggles, their doubts, their hopes.
Meeting them where they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not where we think they should be.
And realizing that even with all these challenges, the Holy Spirit is still working.
Absolutely.
Guiding us, inspiring us, calling us to be a church that welcomes and nurtures young people.
Yes.
And empowers them to live out their faith in a world that needs them.
I completely agree. And this brings up something else we haven't talked about yet.
That's that.
Fathers.
Okay.
Nick Cady's article points out something really interesting about how a father's faith impacts his kids' religious upbringing.
Oh, right. I remember that article.
He gets some surprising statistics about it.
Yeah, about church attendance, right.
Exactly. He talked about studies that show when both parents go to church regularly, their kids are way more likely to stay active in their faith as adults.
Makes sense.
But here's what's really interesting.
Okay.
When only the father goes to church, over half of the kids still go as adults.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
What about when only the mother goes?
It drops to only 15%.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It really shows how important fathers are as spiritual leaders in the family.
Absolutely.
And maybe it shows that young men especially need strong faith role models.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it brings up an important question that connects to your worries about the church's future.
Okay, what is it?
Could it be that young people are leaving the faith partly because they haven't seen it lived out authentically at home, especially by their fathers?
That's something to think about.
Yeah.
With all these issues and statistics,
yeah,
I keep coming back to Fritz's theory of one.
It is a powerful reminder that change begins with each of us.
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture.
Yeah.
The stats.
Yeah.
The challenges.
And we forget about the power of one-on-one relationships.
It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. We can't fix this overnight.
Nope.
But we can make a difference in the lives of the people around us.
We can be mentors.
Yes.
Guides.
Friends.
Absolutely.
We can invite, encourage, challenge. We can live our faith authentically and inspire others to do the same.
Which brings us back to that question we were thinking about before.
Yeah.
Could it be that the key to revitalizing the church isn't about adapting to modern trends, but about rediscovering authentic discipleship and the beauty of our Catholic tradition?
That's a question worth pondering, and it leads to a really important insight. Could it be that what attracts young people back to the church are the things that have always been at its core?
Like what?
Truth, beauty, goodness, and a deep love for God and our neighbors.
Yeah, it's like going back to the basics.
Yeah.
The core of what it means to be a follower of Christ.
It's not about rejecting the modern world or hiding away in some kind of bubble.
Right.
It's about recognizing that people want more. It's more than just the temporary things our culture offers. Young people especially, they're searching for meaning, purpose, a sense of belonging.
And they're finding it in surprising places.
Right.
Like the ancient rituals and traditions of the church.
It's like they're saying, we tried the world's way and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now we want to try the path that's helped believers for generations.
And what's interesting is that when they see the beauty of the liturgy, the depth of our theological teachings, the church's commitment to truth and justice throughout history, it really connects with them.
It does.
It speaks to a longing that the modern world just can't satisfy.
Absolutely. It's like they're rediscovering a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
They're realizing that the church, even with its flaws, offers something real and valuable.
And that rediscovery brings joy and gratitude.
It does.
They realize they're not alone.
Right.
They're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
A community that goes back centuries, united by faith in a God who loves them no matter what.
So what does this all mean for you? You obviously care about the church's future.
I do.
I think the takeaway here is hope.
Okay.
The statistics can be discouraging.
Yeah.
We're facing some tough challenges.
Right.
But there are signs of life,
okay,
renewal, a desire for genuine faith.
Yeah.
And we can build on that.
I agree. And if I may offer a final thought.
Of course.
Maybe the best way to bring young people back to the church isn't to try to make it fit modern trends, but to boldly proclaim the truth of the gospel.
Yes.
To live our faith with love and joy.
Absolutely.
And invite others to experience the richness and beauty of our Catholic tradition.
Well said. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights, things to think about, and maybe even some renewed hope for the future of the church.
Remember, even small acts of faith and love can make a difference. Thanks for joining us.